Count Luca was one of the wealthiest billionaires in Europe, a man whose entire life had been defined by building a vast empire from nothing. But as he grew older, a nagging worry began to consume him. What would happen to his hard-earned fortune when he was gone? Surrounded by a large family, 2 wives and 6 children, Count Luca increasingly doubted whether his heirs would honor the legacy he had painstakingly built or simply squander it in pursuit of personal gain. Haunted by memories of bitter family disputes over money, arguments between his first wife Isabella, who believed her children deserved the lion's share, and his second wife Sophia, who insisted that her older children had rightful claim, Count Luca devised a radical plan. Rather than risk leaving his wealth in the hands of those he feared were too self-indulgent, he decided to fake his own death in a staged plane crash. This way, he could secretly observe how his family would react, manage the assets, and reveal who was truly capable of preserving his legacy. Late one cool afternoon, with anxiety etched on his face and his €64 billion fortune at stake, Count Luca sat in his study. Determined yet heartbroken over his family's constant bickering, he contacted his trusted lawyer, Mr. Lombardi, and laid out his unconventional scheme. They agreed on a meticulous plan. First, arrange a realistic plane crash scenario, then secretly monitor the family's behavior using hidden cameras and audio devices installed throughout the estate. Additionally, Count Luca decided to secure half of his wealth by transferring it to a secret bank account, ensuring that no matter what chaos ensued, a significant portion of his fortune remained untouched. That very next morning, Count Luca announced that he was leaving for a week-long business summit in the USA. His announcement was carefully staged. He even transferred funds to keep his family comfortable while he was away. His children's reactions were mixed. Marco, his eldest, eagerly asked to accompany him, while his daughter Chiara pouted over the missed opportunity for weekend shopping. Even his second wife, Sophia, voiced concern, though Count Luca reassured her that everything would be fine. Yet beneath the surface, Count Luca's heart ached as he realized that his family's excitement was driven not by grief, but by greed. After his departure, hidden technicians swiftly installed tiny cameras in every corner of the estate, disguised as decorative items, concealed behind picture frames, and even tucked away in air vents. The plan was now in motion. Count Luca, safely hidden at a rented property, could watch his family's every move. Through the live feeds, he witnessed the immediate transformation of his once respected household into a theater of avarice and callous ambition. Within days, the facade of mourning began to crumble. Isabella, the first wife, was the first to speak up on the phone with Mr. Lombardi. "When can we discuss the will?" she demanded, impatient for clarity on her share. Sophia echoed similar sentiments shortly after. Even the children were far from devastated. Instead, they were consumed by plans to sell off inherited companies or use the money to fund their extravagant lifestyles. Marco boasted about his dreams of turning the oil refinery into a cash cow, while Chiara fantasized about buying a luxurious yacht. In one distressing instance, the twins Andrea and Paolo whispered a secret plan to sell all of their companies and move abroad, convinced that a quick sale would open the door to even greater wealth. All the while, Count Luca sat in his hidden study, his heart growing heavier with each new revelation. He was particularly pained by the cold indifference of his children and wives, whose actions confirmed his worst fears. They cared more about immediate riches than the legacy of hard work and vision he had built. In a moment of bitter reflection, he recalled a recent family dinner where the arguments over minor possessions had escalated into full-blown disputes over the management of his companies. His decision to fake his own death now felt justified, even if it pained him to betray the trust of those he once loved. Mr. Lombardi continued to work diligently behind the scenes. Not only had he facilitated the creation of the secret bank account and the hidden surveillance network, but he also oversaw the legal maneuvers necessary to distribute Count Luca's wealth in a way that would expose the true nature of his heirs. The distribution plan was intricate. Isabella was allotted €625 million along with several luxury items. Sophia received €519 million, with her share including real estate and vehicles. Marco was handed the oil refinery company and other assets totaling over €8 billion. Chiara received a lucrative portfolio from the technology ventures. The twins Andrea and Paolo received smaller sums, while the youngest child, Enzo, got the hospitality and tourism business valued at 737 million euros. As the day of the will reading arrived, the family gathered in the main house, buzzing with anticipation. Mr. Lombardi, acting as the solemn messenger of Count Luca's final wishes, began the proceedings. He detailed how Count Luca's initial investments had ballooned over the years, enumerating the massive values of the various companies. The announcement of the new, larger inheritance further stirred greed among the heirs. The room was filled with excited chatter and secret glances as each family member envisioned the fortune that would soon be theirs. Yet while most of the family was consumed by their newfound greed, Enzo stood apart, quiet and thoughtful. The youngest son appeared genuinely grief-stricken, not by the loss of his father, but by the realization of what his siblings had become. Count Luca, monitoring the event from afar, felt a mixture of anger and sorrow. He could hardly believe that his children were so eager to dismantle and sell off the very businesses that his years of toil had built. In the days that followed, chaos reigned. The twins, Andrea and Paolo, set in motion a secret deal to sell the companies for a quick profit. They even struck a deal with a supposed buyer who turned out to be part of a deceptive scheme orchestrated by Mr. Lombardi to prevent outsiders from taking over their father's legacy. Meanwhile, Isabella and Marco plunged into a world of reckless spending, throwing lavish parties, purchasing expensive yachts, and indulging in luxury without a second thought. Their extravagant lifestyle soon took its toll. Their companies began to falter as they neglected their responsibilities, reducing these valuable enterprises to mere cash generators for their opulent parties. Even more tragic was the path taken by Amara, Count Luca's only daughter from his first marriage. Instead of managing her inheritance wisely, Amara succumbed to a life of self-destruction. Fueled by drugs and high-stakes gambling, she squandered her 40 million euros in a blur of debauchery. Eventually, her reckless behavior led her to criminal activities abroad. After a disastrous night when her boyfriend, under the influence, absconded with all their money, Amara found herself penniless and alone in a foreign country. Deported back to Italy, she was forced to confront the harsh consequences of her actions, a living cautionary tale of how quickly fortune could vanish when irresponsibility took hold. As the various calamities unfolded, one beacon of hope remained: Enzo. Unlike his siblings, Enzo chose a different path. Realizing the importance of building on his father's legacy rather than merely enjoying its fruits, he reached out to Mr. Lombardi for guidance. Together, they scrutinized market trends, analyzed successful business models, and carefully planned his investments. While his siblings' inheritances dwindled through careless decisions, Enzo's 737 million euros gradually grew into a thriving business empire. Within a year, his prudent investments in the hospitality sector had multiplied his share into 4 billion euros. Enzo's success was a testament to the values of hard work, careful planning, and financial responsibility, values that Count Luca had hoped one day would shine through. For a long while, Count Luca remained hidden in his rented apartment, watching everything unfold on his surveillance screens. His heart ached as he witnessed his family's descent into decadence and waste. The betrayals, the reckless deals, and the extravagant lifestyles all confirmed his worst fears. Yet the unexpected success of Enzo offered a glimmer of hope. Realizing that his initial judgment of his children might have been too harsh, Count Luca began to question if there was still a chance for redemption among his heirs. Finally, after a year of secret observation, Count Luca decided it was time to end the charade. With a deep breath, he called Mr. Lombardi and shared his decision. He wanted to reveal himself to his family and confront them about their behavior. The plan was to gather everyone together under the pretext of having discovered additional assets that had not been included in the original will, a discovery that would surely captivate their greed. Mr. Lombardi agreed, and they arranged for the family to meet at the main house the following afternoon. On the appointed day, as the family members gathered once again in the grand living room, Mr. Lombardi stood before them and announced that further assets had been found, assets even larger than what they had received before. The news sent ripples of excitement and avarice through the room. Eyes widened, and hushed conversations filled the air as the family members began speculating about their even greater fortunes. All the while, Mr. Lombardi kept them waiting for a final, earth-shattering revelation. Back at his hidden apartment, Count Luca watched these developments with a mix of anticipation and dread. He recalled all the sacrifices he had made to build his empire and the deep sense of betrayal he now felt toward those who had so carelessly disrespected his legacy. Yet, amid the corruption and greed, he also felt a surge of pride for Enzo, the one family member who had truly honored his memory by turning a modest inheritance into a burgeoning business empire. Determined to finally reclaim control of his family's destiny and to confront them with the truth of his observations, Count Luca prepared to step out of the shadows. With Mr. Lombardi by his side, he planned to reveal himself at the forthcoming family meeting. He wanted to see their faces when they realized that he had been watching their every move all along and to challenge them about the irresponsible ways they had handled his fortune. As the meeting approached, Mr. Lombardi instructed the family to return to the main house for one final gathering. With a heavy heart, Count Luca braced himself for the confrontation that was about to unfold, a confrontation that would force his family to reckon with the legacy he had built and the legacy they were determined to destroy. In that moment, he knew that the coming revelation would not only expose their greed, but would also test whether any of them could truly be deemed worthy of the legacy he had fought so hard to create. The stage was set for the final act, a moment of reckoning that promised to change everything. With the promise of even greater riches hanging in the balance and the ultimate truth about his survival about to be revealed, Count Luca prepared to face his family at last, hoping against hope that amid all the avarice, at least one of his children would have learned the value of responsibility, hard work, and integrity.